disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. So people are reeling in from yet another school shooting that happened in America. You know, go figure. It just happens so frequently that even for myself, I feel embarrassed that anytime I see any headline about a school shooting or gun violence in a public setting that involves many individuals that are harmed from this incident, that because it happens so frequently and because I know that nothing has been done about it in the last how many years, that I just feel totally numb to this. And I shouldn't feel this way. I should feel, sympathetic. I should feel, just how awful and devastating this is. But considering the fact that, we've been experiencing school shootings for quite a long time. I've been seeing the headlines since the day I was born. Since 1995, Columbine 1999 was supposed to be the big event that was supposed to change things around. That's why Michael Moore did a documentary, Bowling for Columbine. That's why, all these reports are coming out. People are starting to investigate and examine. And even if you had the good faith and good intention to try to combat this continuous school shooting massacre and just the continuous of gun violence in public settings, it's never, ever, ever going to get resolved. None of it's ever going to get resolved. And we have done extensive deep dives on this channel regarding school shootings because I want to get something done about this. As a Canadian, we don't experience the high levels that America does, but considering that, I grew up in public school, I grew up in a setting where there was potentially, possibly that could have happened to me, could have happened to my fellow classmates, that, yeah, something should be done about this. So we did a deep dive. We talked about every aspect that possibly could lead into a potential mass shooter. Everything from, the guns itself to antidepressants to mental health to the media to this, paranoia scare that just encapsulates everything, how the media reports on it. We've done everything trying to combat and tackle the top issues involving why this continues to be a thing. And, for years I've been on the fence on the whole gun issue. It's something that I've been circling around for such a quite extensive time because at one point, I didn't see it as necessary. I didn't see it as why people needed to resort to having this, automatic weapon or semi-automatic or having a pistol in their home when, other measures can be to self-defend themselves. But as time has gone on, and I think just because of, the circumstances we're in right now, I now see the other side of the argument in which that crime is not going down. Crime is continuing to skyrocket. I think that it's been manufactured purposely to keep crime afloat because that scares people, that, puts people into complicity for authoritarian control. So I think that's one of the many reasons. And we know that police officers, despite police brutality, despite all those issues, aren't responding to the crimes as they did back in the day. So I see the argument on why people, could be very much pro Second Amendment. I also see it as a measure when it comes to government authoritarianism and government overreach. I understand that. So I've been, on the fence for many years. I think more so now I'm kind of on the pro side of the Second Amendment because of just the times we're in right now, just because of how heinous things are getting. But nonetheless, all the arguments we have made, every time we have this discussion, it just feels like we're screaming into a brick wall because nothing ever gets done about this. And it makes me think, and I know this is going to sound like an Alex Jones tinfoil hat rant here, but it makes me think that these school shootings, the more they go on and the more this happens, it brings into something else. Like, these are purposely set up to lead into something. Like, these school shootings don't seem organic. And in particular with this one in Minneapolis, Minnesota, it really, really makes me think that this was a setup at some point. So Like, someone pointed this out. This is from Ultra Grizzly Biker Dad. And I've seen these posts going around. I've seen a lot of people posting this on social media. So what was very interesting about the Minneapolis school shooter? This is at a Catholic school, church, a Catholic, or whatever you like to call it, where this 23-year-old transgender person walked into the building with firearms, shot at kids, and what's so just shocking about all this was how fast they were able to gather so much data on the shooter as fast as possible. And when I found that shocking because the fact that, we have other big giant cases that we should be revealing more detail as time went on, like, the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on Donald Trump. We don't have much information on that. You barely have any information on the second attempt on Donald Trump's life. You don't see any more information when it comes to 9/11. You don't see any more information on JFK. You don't see any more information. Like, all the things that we could be revealing huge amounts of information because we waited such a significant amount of time for it to be released. None of those details ever got leaked out. But the moment that this school shooting occurred, all of a sudden, like in an instant, in a matter of time, we got the manifesto, we got the name, we know who they're related to, we know about this, that. It's like, whoa. How is that possible? How is that possible? Like, even regular crimes, it takes officers days, possibly weeks, to identify a suspect. But apparently they just found immediately as the incident was occurring, oh yeah, we know exactly who this perp is. So really, really just, I kind of, raised my eyebrows a bit on this, on how crazy it just seems like this is a setup. So this guy says, well, there you go. We have allegedly identified the shooter in Minneapolis as Robin Westman. That's the guy, or the guy who's now a girl, transgender. I don't know how you properly identified. Forgive me. A trans-identified woman, Westman allegedly released a manifesto on social media in a video. In the video, Westman showed weaponry that had anti-Trump and anti-Israel sentiments written on them. So this kind of, shocked me a bit in the fact that this is not just your average depressed teenager that maybe they're just on medications that's altering their brains. Maybe they're in flux with the mass amounts of, violent video games and TV, which we talked about extensively on this channel. We talked about, what I call the cycle of how, mass shootings get reported and how we're stoking fear into, people's minds, and they become so afraid that it builds into, the weapons industry. People are rushing out there to buy handguns and shotguns and whatnot and semi-automatic rifles to protect themselves from a paranoid threat they just heard on television when they don't understand why they're doing it. We talked about all this extensively. We talked about every aspect of this. It just seems like this particular incident just seems too convenient to just be a random person. The fact that they were able to identify, they were able to find a manifesto, they were able to find this person's YouTube account when at first they said there was no social media account for this person, but then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, we found a YouTube video detailing the exact manifesto and the weapons used at the massacre. And in specifically, weapons that had anti-Trump and anti-Israel sentiments written on them. Well, isn't it kind of interesting that right now, the Trump administration is actively engaging and going after people that are pro-Palestine. They're going after people that critique the nation of Israel, critique the genocide. They're going after people that criticize the Trump administration's complicity into the genocide. So how convenient would it be for them to have a shooter who now can be demonized through the mainstream media and now connect them to anti-Trump and anti-Israel rhetoric? Kind of seems like a perfect patsy, right? Kind of seems more and more like a Lee Harvey Oswald situation. Well, there's more to this. So, Truth Toll official says if Minneapolis Catholic school shooter Robin Westman really hated Jews in Israel, he would have attacked a nearby synagogue and not a Christian school or Christian church slash school. This is a psyop to increase yet more anti-Semitism laws and stricter gun laws. He saw himself as Moloch, the demon. This was a sacrifice. So that was another thing that kind of struck me. Is, okay, you have a 23-year-old identifying as a trans identified woman who went by Robert, now going by Robin, who now apparently hates Jewish people, very anti-Semitic, anti-Trump. Why would you be going after a Catholic, a Christian school if supposedly the rhetoric, if supposedly the manifesto determined that this guy was anti-Semitic? It just doesn't add up to the situation. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense in the regards that they're explaining this, but they want to stoke fear because, again, they want to make you believe. They want you to paranoid yourself into thinking that anti-Semitism is on the rise, that we got to do something about it. There's so much anti-Semitism going around that we got to stop this. Just like how they convinced you that there was a Russian in every corner, just like how post 9/11 they convinced you that everyone's a terrorist until proven innocent. It's happening again, folks. It's happening again, folks, with this particular incident. And here's this. So the shooter uploaded a 20-minute YouTube video in the early morning of August 27, 2025. The entire manifesto, the entire journal is in Russian. What? So you got a transgender person going into a Christian school with the rhetoric of anti-Trump and anti-Israel, but also he writes in Russian? This seems like the perfect patsy to demonize as some sort of domestic terrorist. This seems like the ultimate caricature, the ultimate construction of like a CIA kind of dupe. That they bring this individual in, they, tell them, hey, if you do this, we'll do whatever, we'll pat your back. You scratch ours, we'll scratch you. It just seems like the perfect patsy opportunity. Like, just how convenient it is that, oh, this 23-year-old identifies as part of the LGBTQ community. So there's that backing that. There's also suspicion that he's anti-Trump and anti-Israel. But apparently he also writes in Russian. Which, explain to me, I've never met a 23-year-old, ever. I've never met any person that can write fluently in Russian on this side of the world. And even if that person was bilingual, like they spoke Russian in the home or elsewhere, have you ever met someone that is bilingual, that could have conversations in both their native language and another language, but can write perfectly in the foreign language? And particularly with Russian language, writing in Russian is totally different than writing any other language because the Russian alphabet is vastly different. Vastly different. So how's a 23-year-old able to do it so perfectly, so finesse, and write and record this on a video to show to people that he's writing a Russian manifesto that's anti-Israel, anti-Trump, just how convenient all this is, and goes into a Christian school of young children. It just seems so chaotic. Seems so suspicious. And that's where this comes in. That's where this comes in. This is where my suspicion is starting to actually play out. That me being a little more tinfoil that conspiracy this time around with this school shooting is actually playing out. So this guy, Jason Basler, pointed out, one day after the Minneapolis shooting, Israeli special ops veteran Aaron Cohen, this guy here, was on Fox touting Gideon, his Palantir-built AI threat detector using Israeli-grade ontology. Even Melania Trump posted about preempted intervention to stop mass shootings. Conspiracy or coincidence? So considering the fact that a school shooting occurred, and usually it takes days, usually it takes weeks, usually it takes some time to fully understand who this person is, to get an ID on this person. We don't know anything about the Vegas shooting. We don't know anything about other past instances, but it's amazing that these coordinated efforts, just like what we saw with the New Orleans massacre. Remember the guy that drove through a crowd of people? I think it was New Year's Day or something. Drove through a crowd of people in New Orleans in their busy district, and they didn't know any information about this guy other than the fact that they perfectly found a ISIS flag, perfectly intact, just right in position, like a photo op. And people are starting to think, what? Like, kind of crazy that you're just revealing this information in an instant without actually going through the details of knowing who this guy is, what his name is, what his background is, where he's located. But immediately they just jump to, well, this guy had a ISIS flag. Conveniently. Just like this person conveniently writes in perfect Russian, a 23-year-old that writes in perfect Russian and has sentiments of anti-Trump and anti-Israel. How convenient that is. How convenient that 23-year-old would be that. Who's also transgender. It just seems like the perfect patsy for the Trump administration to use this and to bait people with this as a fear tactic to incorporate this AI mass surveillance technology, something that literally comes out of a sci-fi movie, Minority Report, science fiction, that's now becoming reality. So here, this is Fox News. This is the guy is next to this woman here, and he's going to explain this lovely invention coming out of Israel that's going to mass surveil on Americans conveniently after a mass shooting that people are picking up as suspicious.
Aaron Cohen, Gideon AI trailer. Let's play it very quickly.
Gideon is the first real-time AI system built to detect threats online before they become attacks. Anonymous networks flagging behavior, predicting danger. We don't get a second chance. Let's not miss the next one.
Can I just say, before we played this video, I actually had to take a link to this video. I had to send it to another website to check to make sure this video wasn't AI. I literally had to do that because no actual living human being sounds like that. No living human being sounds and talks in that way. I literally thought it was an AI generated video there. So I had to check for myself, and it turns out it's a real video. I couldn't believe it. It looks like something, it's like a Disney animatronic thing, like Country Bear Jamboree. Like who does that? Who goes on like that and talks in that manner. Like, who does that?
We don't get a second chance. Let's not miss the next one.
15 seconds.
You don't get a second chance. Let's stop the next one. Come on. Come on.
Seconds there, and you're talking about stopping mass shootings, attacks in Boulder before they start.
Trace, I'm building the first AI-driven threat prediction platform for law enforcement. They're flying blind right now. I've got an elite team of engineers from Palantir. I've got law enforcement agencies lined up. 76% of these mass attackers posted some type of grievance online. This is America's early warning detection system. If you're a chief out there, reach out to me and get on my pilot. And if you're a VC, I'm about to open my seed round. Partner with me, and let's make America safe again and get cops the tools they need.
I mean, I swear, he sounds like a robot doing this. Like, it literally sounds like someone programmed this man, did some engineering robotics, put him onto a Fox News panel next to a rabbi who works for Israel, by the way. I just want to make that clear. This is Israeli special ops, a veteran from a foreign country going on to American media to peddle a company to spy and track and surveil on Americans. Wow. That's gonna work out well. That's gonna be great. To have Israeli operatives and Palantir flagging people for what they consider pre-crime initiatives. So anyone that criticizes, Israel as pro-Palestine, they can be flagged. Anyone that has a critique of the Trump administration, they can be flagged. Anyone demanding the Epstein files to be released, they can be flagged. This is the Patriot Act on steroids. This is far worse than what the Bush administration, this is what Bush and Dick Cheney would imagine in their wet dreams. And it's happening through Donald Trump. It's happening through Donald Trump. Make America great again by mass surveilling everybody with an Israeli operative. Not a joke. Look at this. Look at the Chiron. Israeli special ops veteran, not an American veteran, not a person that actually fought in your wars, but a guy who fought in a foreign country. Is going on American media telling you that we're doing this project and having Palantir mass surveil everybody. This is worse than China. Worse than China. So now I kind of understand why this school shooting occurred. Why a 23-year-old transgender person magically just came out of nowhere, able to write fluent Russian. We have no background elsewhere, but we know they write fluent Russian. They have a manifesto. They have a bunch of machine guns and semi-automatic rifles that have depictions of anti-Semitic tropes and anti-Donald Trump rhetoric. And they went and committed atrocity on school-age children, and now you have a Israeli special ops going on Fox News saying that we need to roll out this science fiction pseudo-reality mass surveillance system in a week. So that's why I'm kind of figuring out now that all these school shootings are there for a reason, and why they will never be fully investigated, why they will refuse to not actually engage in combating the problem, making things safer. They don't want things to be safer. Why would we do that? Why would we make things safer and prosperous? Why would we actually pursue in the American value of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness when we can sell them using fear and paranoia and propaganda, this heinous technology, this heinous apparatus that is going to mass surveil on people, that is going to turn your world into a technological feudalist dystopia? Why would we actually solve crimes? Why would we actually do anything worthwhile when we could sell them this technology? Because now people are scared that a 23-year-old who writes perfect Russian is gonna. There's more of them out there. There's more of them out there. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And there's more video of this guy. It's just, he literally is. It's almost robotic the way he's presenting this. So here's another take of his.
I am
on Fox News. Take a look.
Correct. I am now about to launch Gideon, America's first ever AI threat detection platform built specifically for law enforcement. It scrapes the internet 24/7 using an Israeli-grade ontology to pull specific threat language and then routes it to local law enforcement.
So listen to how he's describing this. It's scraping the internet. It's scraping the internet. And for those who remember what the Patriot Act, how they try to sell you the Patriot Act, how they told you that, oh, no, we're only mass surveilling on specific people we initially believe could be capable of terrorism. We're only going after those people. You guys are safe. That was the biggest lie of the entire application of the Patriot Act. That was the biggest lie. Because as we've been revealed through Edward Snowden and whistleblowers within the intelligence department, that they're constantly surveilling you. They're constantly surveilling everybody. Because to people like him and to people like Marco Rubio, to people like Donald Trump, to people anywhere in the top elite class, you are a problem. You are our slaves. You have to be mass surveilled and leashed like a dog. You are cattle to them. So they're going to scrape the internet and search every single opportunity to flag you by any means necessary. And it doesn't matter if you're doing heinous acts or not. If you're posting wrong thing, they're targeting you. If you have criticisms of Israel, if you have criticisms about sending money to Ukraine, because now they can bait people and saying, well, the mass shooter was a Russian. So anyone that critiques the Ukraine war, oh, you're going to be flagged now. You're a potential threat. And concerning the fact that Joe Biden, remember Joe Biden coined the phrase domestic terrorist? Remember he did that whole speech where the whole background was red and he demonized half the population? You're a domestic terrorist extremist. The MAGA population, the people that want to make America great again, they're domestic terrorists. Now, Trump's in office and he's doing the exact same thing. He's now demonizing people as domestic terrorists using AI technology, using algorithms, using the top billionaire tech bro billionaire class to mass surveil on Americans. Does that sound like the Donald Trump you elected? Does that sound like the kind of person that's going to make America great again? No. That's why Donald Trump and his administration failed you. And it doesn't even matter if it's Trump or if it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or whoever the case may be. It was going to happen because America is captured. America hasn't taken over. America hasn't had sovereignty since at least the 1980s. And it's leading down this horrific path. And they need the opportunity to scare people into this. Hence why they need a patsy to storm in to a school and shoot it up. Which makes me think that all these school shootings are not random instances. That there's almost like some sort of conspiracy out there to rile up more violence on the streets to get people into this path. People have stated this, that it was possibly because they wanted to, get rid of the guns. That was, a big conspiracy that people thought that Even Alex Jones, when he said that there were crisis actors. I don't believe that rhetoric. I think there are genuine people that got afflicted by school shooting, got afflicted by violence. I don't think there's crisis actors out there posing it. But I do think that there's operatives in the government that are trying to implement this. I know there are. Remember Florida? Remember Parkland? Remember how people were warning the FBI about the shooter in Parkland? The FBI ignored that. So, forgive me if I don't believe that this Gideon project, which sounds like a character from the Goofy movie, I guess I'd be more afraid if it wasn't sounding like a Disney cartoon. Didn't Goofy had a niece? Gideon Goofy? I don't know. That's a different conversation. But concerning the fact that people have the ability to tell the FBI, to tell the authorities, hey, I suspect someone is going to commit a school shooting. And they did that in Parkland, and the FBI completely ignored that. I don't know if people remember that. The FBI never got questioned, investigated, hold account to the fact that they were ignoring pleas by people knowing that this guy was dangerous. So if the whole purpose of this is to stop further mass shootings, why did Parkland, when people were warning the FBI about this potential shooter, did they ignore those claims if you're trying to stop mass shootings? Because it's not that. This Gideon project, the reason he's telling you this is to ramp people up so you're accepting a mass surveillance system. Because all this is going to do is start flagging people at any means cost and turn you all into their domestic terrorist bunch. Just like how Joe Biden stated about the MAGA population. Now Donald Trump is doing this to anybody that critiques Israel, anyone that critiques anyone who's in favor of transgender or LGBTQ, anyone that steps out of his line, you're deemed a domestic terrorist, which is the most anti-American you can get. The most anti-American you can get is to do this. But they're trying to sell it to you as some sort of preemptive position to stop further mass shootings. It seems so heinous. And it's even getting endorsements from Melania Trump. Melania Trump endorsing this. Get this. She says the tragic mass killing in Minnesota illuminates the need for preemptive intervention in identifying potential school shooters. Early warning signs are often evident, with many individuals exhibiting concerning behaviors and making violent threats online prior to their actions. To prevent future tragedies, it is crucial we look into behavioral threat assessments across all levels of society, beginning in our homes, extending through school districts, and of course, social media platforms. Being aware of these warning signs and acting quickly can save lives and make American communities safer. I don't know about you folks, but that sounds like a social credits system. To me, that sounds like you're cracking down on wrongthink. You're cracking down on hate speech. Because we have measures in place that people can inform law enforcement if they suspect that someone is capable of committing a school shooting. People were trying to do that with Parkland, and the FBI ignored that. But here, she's touting that this Gideon platform, this mass surveillance, is to prevent further mass casualties through scraping the internet and looking at warning signs. So to me, this is social engineering. This is taking AI, turning it into a mass surveillance, authoritarian rogue system, scraping the internet, and giving people a social credit score. If you're engaged in wrongthink or hate speech, they're going to flag you. And especially if it criticizes Israel, if it criticizes AI technology, if it criticizes anything the Trump administration is committing, if it finds something that you talk about Jeffrey Epstein, it's going to flag you. So this is just chaotic. This is so chaotic. But of course, they needed a school shooting to occur to sell you this idea. Just like how they need 9/11 to sell you the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was written in the 90s. It was already written in stone. They just need something to scare people into submission. Ergo, 9/11. Ergo, a school shooting. Ergo, a lot of these tragic incidents that we're not allowed to examine or question or find real accountability for, but we're just supposed to go along with this and submit to the heinous actions preceding a tragedy. And in this case, submitting and bending the knee to an authoritarian AI monitoring system that the First Lady is endorsing. Melania Trump doesn't do a lot of endorsements when she's First Lady. But the fact that she's doing this just blows my mind. So here's him again. Here's Aaron Cohen again on Fox News doing a sales pitch once again to mass surveil on Americans. This is an Israeli operative doing a sales pitch on Fox News to mass surveil on Americans.
I have just built, Sean, the first AI-powered threat detection system for law enforcement that scans the open web for radicalization and tactical planning. And if somebody in the Trump administration is listening, partner with me and let's scale this and get local law enforcement the tools they need. My technology will prevent these threats from popping off. You have to get in front of these. The technology's here. The Israeli model meets Palantir quality engineering, and I've got it, and the White House needs to give me a buzz, and let's get this thing scaled nationally, and it's called Gideon.
Yes, let's stop radicalization. I don't know if people are aware of this, but particularly in America, particularly the U.S. government, they deem a lot of people, and thanks to, reversing legislation by, habeas corpus, striking that and all the other heinous laws that they've done against the American public, the government can deem a lot of people as terrorists. A lot of people. In fact, they've already done so in iterations. The people that were protesting Standing Rock to protect drinking water was deemed a terrorist op by the government. Anyone that participated in Occupy Wall Street was deemed a terrorist. The fact that Joe Biden released documents in his administration, remember there was documents that showed all the levels of people being domestic extremists that the government will pursue as a terrorist. And if the government deems you and identifies you as a terrorist because of the heinous legislator, that means you don't have the civil rights, you don't have constitutional freedoms, you don't have the ability to defend yourself if the government deems you already a terrorist. So this is just, there's so many problematic situations to this. And the fact that they're getting this seemingly AI-generated mouthpiece to sell you this as some sort of win, some sort of flex for America that, Palantir is behind this. It's Israel approved. That's going to be a winner for America. Is absolutely heinous. Absolutely heinous. It's the mark of the beast, for God's sakes. And it's amazing that people that got so up in arms when the World Economic Forum is doing similar iterations of mass surveillance in AI. Like, people get angry when Klaus Schwab or Bill Gates suggest stuff like this. But it's okay if this guy goes on It's okay if Fox News delivers this message. It's okay if it's Palantir, if it's Alex Karp, if it's Peter Thiel. Because they're part of the same club. They're part of the same club. Doesn't matter what political affiliation they're part of, if they're Democrat or Republican, they're part of the same heinous billionaire gang against you. Against you. That's what this is proving. And here's a little fun fact for you. So, Gideon is actually an ancient Israelite military leader, judge, and prophet described in the book of Judges in the Hebrew Bible. Gideon's small force created a nighttime panic in the Mennonite camp, causing the enemy to fight and kill each other. So that's where the name Gideon comes from. And the Gideon system, the AI tracking surveillance apparatus, is already being used on Palestine. They've been using this against Gazans for a numerous amount of years. So, amazingly, the solution that this Israeli operative is suggesting to Americans is to turn America into its own Gaza. Meaning mass surveillance, put everybody into a surveillance dome, and we're going to scrape the internet and make sure people are compliant to every one of our demands. And if they step out of line, they're going to be flagged, they're going to be demonized, they're going to be tracked by government officials and harassed by government officials. The saying goes, what goes around comes around, folks, and that's what's happening. We're doing it to Palestinians constantly, and guess what? We're now becoming Palestine. We're being part of this mass surveillance apparatus and being treated like a digitized slave in the names of crime prevention. As if they actually want to pursue and stopping crime. Because every time we actually come to a solution, a more rational solution in crime prevention, they refuse to budge. They refused to budge when they were informed about the Parkland shooter. But now they want to bring in this advanced technology backed by Palantir, backed by Israel, to mass surveil on Americans. So, the Patriot Voice says, Aaron Cohen, an IDF Special Operatives veteran, was just on Fox News promoting a program. He called Gideon, blah, blah, blah. This extremely dangerous technology was created by modeling Israel's approach to counterterrorism in collaboration with and backed by Palantir, of course. Keep in mind, it is Palantir that creates the kill lists for the Palestinians, which are used by the IDF. This same technology is being developed by absolutely genocidal psychopaths and absolutely will be used against American citizens. Gaza is the testing ground for what is to come. The idea here is called pre-crime, which is related to the idea of thought crime, and is absolutely unconstitutional. An effort and major threat to free expression and civil liberties of everyone. Exactly. And just to sum it up in a cute little cartoon, just a visualization for people to understand. This is what's happening. All the times you thought, China was so bad. All the times you've been, told that North Korea or Russia is such a mass surveillance state and they got to comply. And China with their social credit system, their communist culture and communist country. How dare they? Well, guess what? It's happening here under the name of capitalism. This is late stage capitalism, meaning that monopolies are buying up each other. It's going to be one company ruling everything, and you have to serve and surrender your fate and will to these organizations. So that if someone wants to partake in American society, they have to bend the knee to Palantir. They have to bend the knee to Israel. They have to bend the knee to the people behind closed doors that are monitoring you through this tracking system. That is what is so heinous about this. And we have been told this throughout numerous times of how awful this is going to be, how destructive it's going to be. And, even through the movies. You look at, the 1980s. How many movies have they predicted this? Predicted this influx of technological advancements that's going to mass surveil on people, that's going to crack down on everyday Americans, not just go after the certain individuals they claim that they're going after. I can't say this enough. It is an absolute disaster. It's absolutely heinous what they're doing. And they're doing this on the front of trying to combat pre-crime, which is absolutely barbaric, because in order to track pre-crime from existing, that means you have to go after thought crime, which is absolutely unconstitutional. This is the most anti-American you can get in America. And they're promoting this as some sort of great venture for American safety. It's absolutely insane.